You're listening to The Startup Artist, where acclaimed filmmaker Kurt John Mungle shows you how to hack your psychology, get connected, and finally make money with your art.
All right, I'm here with Chris Szarka, Michelle Nolden, and your respective roles for the Lake Short Film Festival is?
I am the artistic director of Lake Shorts.
And I'm the producer of Lake Shorts.
Okay, the reason why we contacted you was we were looking at we're doing a whole series on sponsorship, and we saw your page. There's so many sponsors. It looks fake. Like that's a compliment.
Yeah.
How did you get those sponsors? How did you get so many sponsors, and what did they end up giving you? As much as you can reveal.
Wow. Well, you got to go back pretty much to how the festival was conceived, if that's okay. So what happened was Michelle was with part of Lakeshore Arts. She was on a council. What was it? Your artist is a filmmaker?
Yeah, so one of the things we should mention right off the bat is that we are in partnership with Lakeshore Arts, which is our local not-for-profit arts organization. So the way that started was I was sitting on a committee called My Neighbor is an Artist, just as a volunteer thing, and thought that it would be really fun to have a night of short films, right? So that would be, I would get some other filmmakers that I knew in the area. So we started with the very first festival was literally a night of like 40 people in our community, and people went, oh my God, I love this. This is a great idea. So
How long ago was that?
That was
11 years.
10 years. It'll be our 10th this year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when we started that, yes. So, and then Chris and I went, we should do a short film festival. And then here we are.
So, which brings us to the thing. So, to your question, right? So we live in South Etobicoke. And at that time, and probably to this time, we've got awesome film industry stuff. We have CineSpace, we have, New Toronto Studios, Dufferin Gate, The Backlot. We have William F. White. We had Deluxe, which was the Deluxe building was here as well. One of their plants was here as well. So, but the end result was there was nothing there to support the arts. Like, we were shooting it all here and we're doing all this, and our industry is alive. But there was no event. There was no film festival here that had to do with the film industry itself. And people who work in film and are around film, we thought, you know what? They should be able to come out and they should be able to see a festival. So Michelle said, we should have a festival. That year I was at the Banff World Media Festival, which used to be the television festival. And I just brought up the idea to some of the people in the neighborhood, right? It was like, I was talking to, I believe, David Hardy at William F. White, and I said, David, we're thinking about having this festival. What do you think, and would William F. White support us? He said, how? I said, I'm not really sure, but yes, we would. Maybe a grant, maybe equipment for the next film, maybe something along that line, right? And then I walked over and I saw someone from Deluxe, and I asked Deluxe, I said, you guys are in the neighborhood of South Etobicoke as well. What do you say? Like, if we had a film festival in South Etobicoke, would you support it? And the answer was yes. And everybody we asked who had some form of infrastructure in the neighborhood all said, this is the greatest idea ever. You should have a film festival in South Etobicoke, and you should.
Right now in Toronto, it's saturated with film festivals, and back then, 11 years, there weren't any film festivals around here.
There were probably, there are film festivals. I think that what we were looking for was a real night out that would make South Etobicoke, our particular neighborhood, a destination point. So it was about film. We love short film. I had done a lot of short films. Chris had too, had always loved shorts, because I feel like if you can make a proper short, you can make a good
feature,
right? Like to do a short is an art form. And we've always thought, well, you go to see a night of, a feature-length film, you may not like that film. You go to see 5 short films, you're gonna like something, right? So we really wanted to create a night that was about the discussion of films, that enveloped these films in food and drink and live entertainment, so that you went, it was a real experience, and that you could have people talk about the films and really discuss them the way that filmmakers would want.
So it wasn't simply a screening, it was more than that. There was food, there was drinks, there was networking.
Yeah, so that from the very beginning, we have had, so Steam Whistle came on board right away. So when you show up at Lake Shorts, you walk what we call the blue carpet. So we've set up the blue carpet. There's live music always. There's food and drink. We've got local neighborhood restaurants
And you started like that?
We
Yes.
started like that in year
Year one.
2. Well, after the like.
Because the first one was just a test, and it
The
wasn't.
first one was a little test.
It's
People were
really
like-
year 0.
Yeah, this is sort of fun. So then that year we started, and we tried a few different screenings. Like one, we had another screening at the place down on Humber, but it worked out best that we got the Assembly Hall on board. So we got our counselor on board right away.
Okay, how?
We just
You went up to them and just said, "Here's the idea. Can you support us?" And you had no ask. You just said, "Can you support us?" And then they pitched to you.
The cool part about anything, especially when I started being a filmmaker and everybody is you don't know what you don't know, right? So you just ask all kinds of questions. If somebody makes a suggestion, you go, exactly, we need that, right? So then that was it. And so back to your earlier question, you'd be able to tell us, but at the time, there were no short film festivals in South Etobicoke or anywhere in Etobicoke at the time. It was the first.
there was another spots in Toronto, but
Not where we were, right? So it was our industry thing. So when we went in and we got a few of the big names behind, and as soon as you had a few people saying, we'll support you, we don't even know how yet, but we're going to support you, then we went to our local councillor and said, hey, we'd like to put on a film festival in your riding. And the first thing he said was, it sounds like a great idea. What do you need? How can I help? And I said, well, we need contacts. We need to talk to people that you think could help us along. Because chances are a councillor or your local MP or your local MPP, all 3 of them jumped on board immediately because they want to see their riding flourish. They want to see their riding be the best one anywhere, right? So those people are going to help you and introduce you to the people that are going to be able to help you, either financially or in kind or in product or whatever it is. And so those were the first conversations.
And one of the things that I have learned over the years, mostly through Lake Shorts in dealing with our politicians, is that they really want to help. So their hands are tied in terms of how much they can't give money or they can't give stuff like that generally, but they really, like Chris said, they want to make anything that happens in their riding a success. So sometimes it's about saying we want to do this, knowing what we want from them, which, like Chris said, was the contact to talk to the film commissioner at City Hall to see if we could then get the City of Toronto logo on the festival, which would then give it some legitimacy, right, and attract people from other countries and that kind of stuff. So I think that you do want to know sort of specifically what you're asking, but then also to say, well, what ideas do you have that you can come on board to help us do this, so that everybody becomes part of the team. Now, I will say one of the things about Lake Shorts, which is probably different from many other festivals, is that we don't make any money. This is a completely volunteer labor of love that we do. So any money that comes into the festival, any sponsorship that comes into the festival goes either to the filmmakers or it goes to the making the festival itself better. So when we charge entry fees through Film Freeway or Without a Box or whatever we choose to use, that money goes into paying for the live entertainment, goes into paying for whatever. So it makes it's a bit of a different thing because it's easier for people, I think, in a way, to jump on board to somebody's passion project when they know that it's a volunteer thing and that they're helping young filmmakers, that they're, $10,000 in studio space that CineSpace will offer on their next film is actually helping.
How do you convey that to the sponsors, to the potential sponsors? You just say what you just said, which is
Just
this
exactly
is
what we just
purely a
said here.
nonprofit. It's not. We're not trying to become the next Bill Gates with this festival.
And that's it. And what you just said, and it's and along with that, we run, future filmmakers initiatives. All the people that you see working at the festival, usually they're interns from Humber or Sheraton or Ryerson or George Brown or somewhere, and they're there, and we make sure that they get honorariums for their work they're doing, whether they're a projectionist, whether they're working a VR booth on behalf of Samsung, or whatever the deal is. So all those individuals, all those students, all those people coming out, they'll have an opportunity to make a few dollars and to get involved, right? So our Friday night is called our Loved and Local, and Michelle created this filmmaker soiree. So all these filmmakers come in who have films in the festival, and you may have some people in there who are pretty much famous, and then you have some first-timers, and it's just amazing. So all these individuals are able to circulate and talk to each other, get to know each other, and maybe help each other out in the future too. So, but back to what you're saying is now you're a local business. So first thing, we went to the counselors, right? I walked into my local Scotiabank and I asked Glenn McCausland was his name at the time, bank manager, and I said, we want to do this festival. How can you help? He goes, well, alone I have hardly anything, but let me see if I can talk to all the other branches in South Etobicoke, and if we all kick in a little bit.
Branches of what?
Scotiabank, right? I said, if we all kick in a little bit, like if we can all find $500 together, that's a lot of money that we could, do to help a small festival like you guys. And that's exactly what they did. So they came on with this little group of Scotia bankers, and they all came, and then they showed up on the night, and they helped on the night, and they loved to be part of it, right?
Would you say it was advantageous to not be in a large part of a normally large trafficked part of Toronto? Because if it was downtown, there would be so many other festivals downtown, and the commissioner, or what do you call it, councillor?
Yeah, councillor, your local
councillor
councillor
wouldn't want to support it, because why would I support you when there's 5 other festivals in this one location?
I think that the key is to identify what it is that makes your festival special, and then being able to convey that to the people that you want to get on board. Because, there's a great festival in Cabbagetown, and there's a great festival in Little Italy, and there's all kinds of great festivals. I think where our success has been is in making it a grassroots community festival. So we don't really have any intention of ever becoming TIFF or doing anything like that. We love that we have a weekend event that sells out in 24 hours, the tickets. People can't wait. It's a hot item to get, and we keep it that way. It stays fairly small, and it's a really fun weekend.
How many people are at the venue now? How many does it support?
Each night.
275 is the size of
When the firemen come.
When the firemen come. Yeah.
So, but for the filmmakers, it's great because they're watching their film in a packed house, right? That really wants to be there, that have fought to get those tickets, and so that's what our thing is. But I would say to any new filmmakers or people starting a festival, it's figuring out what your sort of niche is, and then getting people on board within your community, or maybe that community is your film community, or maybe it's your filmmakers community, or whatever it is, but however you can translate that community, but really getting people involved so that they have some sense of ownership in it. And
putting my business cap on, I also run a nonprofit, but I'm wondering, is that not a disadvantage to some of these people who potentially want to sponsor you, because you're saying that this is not something that we're going to make money from? In other words, there's a chance that this may just dissolve at some point. We're not making money from it. The profit is zero. In other words, you're not making money from it. So is that not a disadvantage? Is that an advantage?
Yes, there has to be a champion. There has to be somebody who has the passion to keep it going. What we do is, and this is a big point for me too, like as you saw, we have 30 sponsors, right? Who either whether cash or whether it's in kind or whatever it is, they put it in. Michelle and I did not want to become a not-for-profit, so we partnered with Lakeshore Arts, the association, the film festival is in association with Lakeshore Arts. All sponsors write their checks to Lakeshore Arts, and then I run the budget and make sure it's spent in the way that's possible. At the end, it gets audited. The festival makes a contribution to Lakeshore Arts every single year, so they can run the hundreds of programs that they run to bring the youth to the arts to the youth. Because they run a lot of really great youth programs in this area, so it's kind of a win-win for everyone. Yeah, and it's it's right there on the website and with Lakeshore Arts. Like they're the reason, along with supporting the film community, we're supporting this awesome organization, Lakeshore Arts, to do it. So at some point, if Michelle and I pass the torch on to someone who has the same type of passion and wants to work with that awesome partner, we would hope that they would do the exact same thing.
So step one was roaming the streets and seeing someone who worked at White's and then Deluxe, and then asking them without a sponsorship package, just telling them your idea.
Oh, no, Chris had a sponsorship package.
Yeah, so the first conversations were at Banff, right? So the first thing I did, I have a marketing background prior to becoming a producer. First thing I did was to get that excitement going, saying, you got to help your local community. You got to check this out. We have a film festival. Of course we're going to do this. Of course we're going to have this thing. And at that point, I took their yes that they gave me in Banff. And I came back and I put it into a package, and I went back to them and I said, so is this how it's going to look? Right? And perfect. Yeah, we can do that. We can give you $5,000 of equipment to the filmmaker's next film, or we can do Agency 71 artwork for their next film, or posters, or whatever it is, right? And so all these people jumped on board. And once we had those people on board, then we go to the local people like, Cooper Gordon or the best one. Our first sponsor was Birds and Beans, a little coffee shop on Lakeshore. Every year, without blinking, $500 to this festival. We need the arts in South Etobicoke, right? So they get it, and that logo is.
Poster up in their coffee shop, and
they do
great.
giveaways for their clients.
Since the very beginning.
Just wonderful. So we have at the high end, we have Scotiabank, and we have AGF, and we have Birds and Beans, right, on this side. And then out of nowhere, people start calling you. Like after they see, and maybe they come to the event, and they go, oh my God, everyone's having such a great time. We're supporting the arts. We're supporting new filmmakers. We're doing this. How do I get involved? And then the phone starts to ring, or text message or an email saying, can we get involved? So it's building a product that supports the arts, that supports filmmakers, that other people, like, when Cinespace came on board, it was a bit of a dream. The Mercopolis family are so generous. And for them to give a $10,000 studio rental if you're a filmmaker and you win that, and you get to shoot on the Cinespace lots, like, that's amazing, right?
But all of those companies individually want to contribute to filmmakers, to indie filmmakers. I mean, we all want to tell Canadian stories. We want to tell our stories, but we also want to, one of the things of Lakeshore is to bring the world to South Etobicoke. So that was what started, was that we wanted to really have this world-class event in South Etobicoke, but also to bring lots of different films from all over the world, and then also to celebrate Canadian film.
Is there some way, putting on your producer hat and maybe your writer-director hat, that a filmmaker can take these lessons and apply to a film rather than an event?
I mean, I would say that if there's one thing that I have learned I've been in this business now for a long time, is that every connection that you make is really important, because you never know when that person, it's kind of like a family, right? So that person that you meet in film school can be the person that can help you out. It may not be in money, but it might be in something else and helping out with your film. So I do think that there's a little bit of beg, borrowing, and stealing that has to happen with the film. But then it's kind of the same thing. Once people realize that it's going to work, then they want to come on board, right? But in those beginning stages, it's really being passionate about what you are doing and not being afraid to ask. I think sometimes people are afraid to ask, and then if you do, you're pleasantly surprised with how people respond.
And
I don't know if that's helpful.
No, it's great.
It's excellent. The way pretty much every project you do now, there hasn't always been, but product placement and product integration are a huge thing. More in Homes on Homes when he's got his DeWalt drill or whatever he has, but you try and get people engaged in something that's meaningful to them, right? So, for instance, I have a kids adventure show that is all about saving the environment and helping endangered species and stopping invasive species and doing all this kind of stuff. So at that point, I'm going to your Ministry of the Environment. You're going to all the same people that you would do you go after at Lakeshore, but where it's focused on them. So people that have a real vested interest in doing something good for a certain cause or something that they would want to be associated with. So if you have a topic matter that is something that MEC is going to say, I want to get involved with, or Canadian Tire or whoever, then you can go that route too and try and.
And you find that it's more.
It's tough.
Do you find that it's more likely to work out if you approach in person or over email or over the phone? Because there's advantages to over email. Obviously, you can send it to 200 people at once, but then in person, they get to meet you.
That I'll take in person 100 times out of 100 times. And the problem is, and the hardest piece of this whole thing is getting to that decision maker, getting through the gatekeeper and to the decision maker for the person who has the ability to say yes.
Okay, let's break down the typical scenario. So you have the idea for your film or your event.
Yep.
And then you think of what cause is this film/event associated with, and who would like to support that cause? Is that step 2 or step 1 or 3?
No, you
okay,
keep
what are the next steps?
No, that would be it, right? And then we sit there and we would think of the individuals that we think potentially, or the companies, or the levels of government, or whoever it would be that could potentially help. and then you go through your Rolodex and your good friend's Rolodex and anybody in the world that you know to try and get to that individual, to talk to them, to tell them about, hey, I've got something that I think you might be interested in, right?
And I'd say most independent filmmakers, if they're making it this far, they've gone this far, they're pretty passionate about what they're doing. And most people, when you really start to talk to somebody about what you're doing, now it might not be a good fit for everyone. So just because you're passionate about it, I don't think means that that person's going to necessarily come on board. That's part of, for every yes that you get a no too, right? I know that.
So you have about a 50% success rate? It's huge. It's extremely high.
Yeah, I mean, it's not unlike auditioning, right? Like I can have however
50% success rate in auditioning, that's huge
that
too.
would be huge too. I wouldn't even say that, right? But so I think that you either, there's a certain level of having a thick skin where you sort of go, this is my idea, jump on board. This is my version of the character that I'm going to offer to you. You take it or leave it. Sometimes they take it, sometimes they leave it, right? But that doesn't affect my belief in what it is that I'm doing.
So you come up with the idea, then you just approach them, you say, would you like to support this? Or, because that's what you did in year one.
Yep.
Would you recommend not doing that and coming with some structure and a sponsorship plan? You said that initially you didn't have a sponsorship plan, but when they said...
I would say that,
Yeah,
that
so
originally-
in our original conversations when I was at Banff, it wasn't there. But the second that I got home, I built a deck, right? What Lakeshores was all about, why, what it's going to do for the community, what our goals are for the future. It laid it all out, and then we had levels of sponsorship that we thought, you could be involved. You could be involved with, right? And then
platinum sponsor, gold sponsor,
community sponsor.
Because I think you can't go to people's time is very precious. So I think that
Much
some
to
of
ask
these,
them to come up with what
yeah,
you
no, I
with
think
what
that you
want.
can come with them, and maybe we were not clear there, but I think you go through with a package, but then if maybe there's something that doesn't fit on that, you can say, is there any other thing that you have, an idea that you have as a way to get involved? So that even though they don't fit in this particular package, so that anybody who wants to get involved in Lakeshores, we will find a way. If you have something to offer the festival, we will find a way to get you involved. If you're a real estate agent and you want to give out, now, something, whatever, but you're going to support it, some swag or something like that. We'll find a way to make it work that's in keeping with the festival. We're not just selling everybody's stuff. I don't mean that.
Exactly. In
but-
my original conversations were with people that I'd had a relationship before. Maybe I was a client there, or maybe I met them at a function or something along that line for those initial conversations. But with people that I'm meeting that I'm trying to, that I've never met before, then I 100% want to have something in writing and a deck to show them exactly what we are, and a website that supports what we're talking about, and links of good films, or what we're going to be doing, or something
an
along
email that's for the
sizzle
festival,
reel.
things that, so from the onset, it's professional. for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So that supporting stuff is there. And what Michelle says too is find a way to work with people. The example that she said was excellent. The one that comes to mind for us was Oxygen Bike Company. It was, I believe his name is Sean Fitzpatrick on the Lakeshore. He said, you know what? I'm just starting. I don't have any money to donate, but how about that bike? Right? And he says, that bike, I want to give that bike away. Well, picture Richard Krause or Rick Roberts riding into a full auditorium on a bike in between two films and saying, who wants to win this bike? Right? And all these people dressed amazingly, I do, right? And then some kind of thing, well, Oxygen Bike sign comes up and the bike gets given away, and everyone's like, how do I get my name up there like that, right? So it's amazing, right?
So even like the photographer is a local photographer, and he comes and does all that stuff, and then he gives away like sort of a film package. So when people show up, they're seeing films, but there's so much other stuff that they're getting. So if anybody has anything that they can offer, now if you're making a film, of course that's a different thing, right? You can't, but there's always creative ways, I think, of any help that anybody offers, of accepting it.
I can imagine that something a filmmaker might be thinking, a filmmaker or someone putting on an event is, let's say I have a sponsorship package and they're unsure of what amounts to put, because they don't want to say something ridiculous as let's say $10,000.
Yep.
And then $20,000, then $30,000. Then they go to RBC and they say, would you want to donate $10,000? And they get laughed out. They're afraid of that. But then at the same time, they don't want to go too low and undersell themselves with with $100 or $500 when they could have gotten $2,000. So what do? Do you just test it out with a select 5 people?
No, first thing is you've got to be honest, you got to be real, you got to be all those things. So year one, I built a budget, and I said, this is what it's going to take for us to put on an amazing film festival. We'd love to have you part of this, right? This is it. This is how much we're going to be giving for awards. This is how much the hall's going to be. This is how much this is. So we broke it down along that line. Can you help us? Could you come on? Like, you could have that whole night. You could have that whole night for $5,000. You could be a title sponsor for $5,000, right? Or come in at 10% as a community sponsor and help me, and I'll try and get 10 other people, right? To get to that with no bells and whistles. And then all of a sudden, you start sitting there going, wow, we made our budget. We got to that. I'm making these numbers up, by the way, but just as for example, we got to that $5,000. Now what are we going to do? I got a great idea. Let's bring in a dance troupe. As soon as everyone sits down and the lights go dim before the films come, a dance troupe's going to come out on the artists from some faraway place, and they're going to come. They're going to wow everybody in the entire place, and we'll pay them, right? And then let's pick the Ballantree Trio outside. They just played for the Governor General. Let's put them on the front. And that's a sponsorship. So I say to KPMG, would you like to sponsor the Ballantree Trio that 500 people are going to see as they walk by with your sign, and they're going to be hearing the most beautiful music they've ever heard? Absolutely. That sounds like a great plan, right?
Chris is also a very good salesman.
So those are the things.
People will often say, it's a bit of a running joke at Lake Shorts, where people will say, they go, you know, I just sat down to have a beer with Chris, and then before I knew it, I was like into sponsoring Lake Shorts. I'm not really sure how it happened, but he told me that I'd committed and he was really excited about it. And so here I am. So it is a bit of a...
So what are some tips you can give to people who are introverted or don't have as great a skill set in marketing as you do?
No, and that is...
I'm bragging for him,
well, thank you.
But I'm a bit biased.
But those is know what you're asking for, and know what you're asking for, be passionate about it. Like if you're not passionate about it, if you're not excited about it, then whoever's, they're not going to be excited about it. Whoever could give you money.
So you have to be able to show your enthusiasm as well.
Show your enthusiasm. Why are you doing this?
Because some people can be internally enthusiastic and then I would love for you to donate.
Then you should bring a friend, right? Bring someone with you who's
Bring one of those dancers.
Or, you know, we had Scott. Anyway, those are
Bring
big
Scott.
things. Yeah, right.
Who's Scott?
There was Scott Jackson. We had him up one year to kick off the festival. He's like a world champion beatboxer. So picture like all these people in their suits, and then this world champion beatboxer comes up on stage and does, what just happened, right? Or we had, who did the spoken word? What was her? There's all these amazing artists.
Okay, it's clear you can, okay, it's not clear, but it's pretty clear that you need to know what you want to ask for specifically.
Yep.
What's not clear is what can you give them? So what are the perks that they're looking for?
The perks that they're going to, so right away, like what I would say is you're going to be on, there's the small stuff, you'll be in the program. When you come in, you'll get to see your logo scrolling on the screen. There's a sponsors poster that is going to be on there. On the website, you'll have your logo. If you click on your logo, it'll go right to your website. You will be involved in the festival, so you get tickets to all the screenings, to the greatest event in South Etobicoke, period. You're part of that whole thing, and you get the pride of ownership of being part of this and being the reason why it's happening. So those are some of the main things, and
it's a really fun night.
And the last piece that we were saying
That's
earlier,
the biggest thing you get out of it.
It's amazing. It's an amazing fun night. Is that when you're in that room and you're talking to whoever it is that could be sponsoring your film or sponsoring your thing, is they have to believe in you being able to deliver the pitch.
Is
right?
your sponsorship deck different for each person that you approach? Do you tweak it or keep it the same?
For large sponsors, like ones like AGF that are going to be that are going to be doing like an entire title sponsor for an entire night, that would be different. For Cinespace, that would be different. Like if it becomes way more than a $500 community sponsorship, then we have to tailor it and add more bells and whistles and make sure that they're getting everything they need, right? We try and support them also digitally. We make sure that our social media team is tweeting out. We make sure that they're getting way more eyeballs for their money than if they went and bought an ad somewhere. Right.
How
So
else
those
do you
are big-
market your film festival? And then how do you market your films? Because you're both filmmakers.
So this is also a case where within our community, we had, so for the first couple years, we would have a publicist, so that helped. And then it turned out our neighbor runs a publicity company. So she says, you know what, I went to Lake Shores, I didn't even know that was happening. I would really like to help out. So she was like, we're gonna do all your publicity. So they did all the publicity. That's how we ended
This is
up
not
going-
helpful to any filmmaker.
No.
Well, it's
No,
helpful for
I know.
festival makers, right? It's get to know your community.
That's
right?
the biggest thing.
Get
Get to know the people around you because they can help you. And you would be surprised how many, I think that's the biggest thing, is that you would be surprised how many people actually do want to help you. So talk about your film. Talk about it with passion. Don't assume that you're boring somebody because they may want to get on board in some way. Maybe they can help with your craft services. Maybe it's like the restaurant on the corner that goes, you know what, I don't have any way to get in it, but if you give me a credit, I've always wanted to see my name on the screen. I'm happy to help you out with your craft. I'm happy to, do your makeup. I'm happy to, it's amazing if you listen to the people in your community, it's amazing how many people can actually help in ways that are outside the box. That was definitely in the box, one that was a real perk,
Yep.
but
And that goes to to the whole reason why all of us who are filmmakers, how you got started, right? You went out and you got on as many sets as you possibly could, and you met as many people as you possibly could, and you got to know people in your own age group or above you or below you or whatever it was, so you all knew each other, and the second that somebody said, hey, can you help me out? Then you said yes, right? And then they said, can you help me? And you said yes, and you help each other out and you talk. Just like if you all of a sudden become a part of a community and you live in wherever, you live in Roncy, whatever, go find out, go talk to people at coffee shops, find out what people do, get to know people in your neighborhood. Tough if you're an introvert, right? But get to know everyone
When you
around
say talk to people at coffee shops, what do you mean? Just strike up a conversation and
Well,
let them
if
know?
you're sitting in a coffee shop and somebody says, yeah, what do you do? I'm in film, or I'm in this, or I'm in that, right? If get to know your neighbor.
And do you say what you do loud enough so other people can hear so you can
No.
no, I think it's just
strike
read
more
people, listen to people,
bowling pins?
I think that when you engage in your artistic community, you don't have to force conversation. So it's not like I'm going to say it loud enough so somebody else is going to hear me and then come up and go, oh, I want to be a part of this. But I think when you just have authentic relationships with people and just connect with your artistic community, the film community around you, then people recognize that authenticity. And if you're willing to help other people, they're willing to help you. I mean, I've done lots of short films for people where I'm happy to help in whatever way I can. And then when I made my first short films, I was calling on some favors, but I'd already done some favors for some other people too. So it's everyone's, and not that anybody's keeping score, but it's that ultimately we know that it's really, really hard in this business to get ahead and to get your stuff noticed. And there's so many pitches out there and so many stories that need to be told that we really need each other. And I think when you put out the energy of being willing to help and to do it for the right reasons, then that energy comes back. I know that sounds kind of like,
No, but it's true.
Kind of true.
Creativity is collaborative. Like you just can't keep it and it's all you and that's it. Like Lake Shores is owned by an entire community now. It's not just ours. It's everybody's. And a film, when you're sitting there, like today, we were at the production office and we lost our DOP for Friday. Who knows who? And then we start going around and people know somebody and somebody, I know somebody, and then away you go. Well, if you're sitting there and you need someone for your show, for one of the movies you're doing to ride snowmobiles across such and such, right? Well, it may be no one in the film industry, but it might be a good friend from your neighborhood who knows somebody who has a snowmobile who could do exactly that, would love to have a credit on a film. And there's a couple grand that you don't have to pay for your film. So it's that networking and I believe personally, everybody wants to see their community succeed. So if you're doing something in your community, go to your community first before you go to head office downtown of some large corporation.
You have a meeting later today with a large company. We're not going to say its name unless you want to. How, broadly speaking, did you get that meeting?
Those are relationships that are built up over time.
Okay, so let's
Right?
go.
I've been
Let's
in
do
this
this step by
industry-
step.
Yeah, so I've been working in this industry now for 25 years, right?
Since
So
she was 2.
Every time since I was 2, yes. So a lot of those relationships come from just starting out, getting your first gig where I came on as an actor role, and then you come on and then you get a bigger role, and then you talk to people.
So it's just you just keep working and
you just keep working. I mean, partly
be nice and amiable.
I think that if you put authenticity out there and you are a good person, and we all have moments where we're not, but I think if your intentions are right, and people like working with you, that goes a long way. It's a war of attrition in a lot of ways, right? So it's just about supporting other people, and then people will support you. But you got to have the goods to back it up. Like, if you can be the nicest person in the world, but if your pitch isn't great, then it doesn't really matter, right?
It's just to jump in on this, right? It's not an easy industry. If it was incredibly easy, absolutely everybody would be doing. There's no real degree for being a producer or being a creator or anything like. You can go to school. I know you go to CFC and you go to all the different colleges or whatever. But when you are, like for me, my first Banff that I went to, which was the Banff Television Festival back then. Now it's the Banff Media Festival. I had 0 meetings, right? So I walked around and just met people, said hi, whatever, right? If you asked CBC for a meeting, or if you asked any of the large broadcasters, and no one has ever heard of you or ever seen you or ever, chances are, they're going to be seeing people that have slates, and they're going to be seeing whatever. So you go out and you meet people and you talk to other people in the same level that you are, and you go to the speakers sessions, and you go listen to what Netflix is looking for this week, and you do all those kind of things. And you go to those festivals and you be seen and you ask the right questions and you meet people and you say, hello, my name is, and then soon enough, I know it really stinks, but soon enough meaning soon enough.
How many months? How many years?
There's no timeline.
There
right?
is no timeline. Like a guy like you, handsome, super charismatic, they may say, hey, you got time this afternoon at 3 p.m., but it could take a couple of years. It could take 3 or 4 things before you're in a room with a real big-time decision maker at a broadcaster. Or if you have the best idea in the world, it may be immediately, right?
But then it could also be that you do that, and then that's the thing with this business too, is that you're always right back to square one. So it doesn't matter how much you have behind you or how many shows you have behind you, you still have to do the same stuff. I mean, I had a year and a half ago, it didn't work for a year, right? That's just the way that it goes. And so I think that there is no timeline that because whenever for a show to go, for a movie to be made, for a festival to happen, there is a certain amount of aligning. It's a perfect storm for those things to happen, right? It's the right people that come on board, the right script, the right champion of your project that you happen to connect with. You can have a show that you think is going to be a surefire success, and it doesn't go. And then the one that you were like, I don't know, I'll sort of just pitch this one. And then that's the one that takes off because it resonated with the right person. So there's no guidebook. If there was, we'd all be a millionaire, right? Because we could put it out. I think it's just persistence and dedication and tenacity and just continuing to know that your voice is important and it needs to be heard.
And you have a side job during the time where you're working it out, trying to make a living as a filmmaker?
Yes, I'm a mom.
But when we first started, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I had like
absolutely.
5 jobs.
So there's no shame in that.
No,
because some
yes,
filmmakers feel like I'm a
absolutely.
failure if I have
Wrong.
if I don't have filmmaking as my quote unquote real job.
No, and absolutely.
That's some serious pressure.
I don't want to jump back a topic, but Arsenio Hall said something, I don't know who said it before him, but I thought it was absolute genius, and I've kind of lived with it in my head at all times. He said luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And so he got lucky, right? Because when preparation meets opportunity, so if you have whatever it is, if you've got that pitch down cold, you know your film down cold, you know whatever it is that you want, your TV show, you've got it set. So if you ever have that opportunity to talk about it, you're able to talk about it with knowledge, you're able to talk about it with passion, and it is tight. It is ready to go, right? And at that moment. So that is a big thing that will separate you from somebody else who's just walking around with, I got some great ideas, right? It's being ready for that opportunity.
Are there any questions that you have, and Victoria?
We talk a lot, hey?
Nothing sponsor related.
Okay, still?
Is that okay? All right, so you're both writers.
No, I'm a producer. Michelle's a writer.
But I'm a new writer. So I've acted for many years, but I'm a new writer. I'm sort of in the process of transitioning and sort of, trying my
Both
wings
at the same
that.
time.
Yeah.
So what are you, do you have a writing process?
I do. Well, I do and I don't. I find that I need to stay on track, so I've hooked up with another friend of mine, another actor who's also a writer, and then we sort of will bounce our ideas back off each other, and we tend to have different processes. So that seems to be working well.
Cool. Do you have any sources of inspiration, like story inspiration? Like, do you go to news or books?
I just live my life.
So just draw it off of experience?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I feel like the more balanced my life is, the more that I have, and the more engaged in my life, the more I can either draw from that and it'll hit me like at weird times. Now, whether they're any good, who knows, right? But you just keep sort of. Chris always says it's like spaghetti. You throw it to the wall, and something's going to stick. Most of it's going to fall down, but something's going to stick.
And Michelle has had. She's had 3 amazing opportunities that went into full development with broadcasters, right? And haven't got there yet. Like, they have not been greenlit for, and that is it too. Like, putting all this effort in and knowing it may not go, but the next one may, right? It is a battle of attrition, and you have to have a thick skin, and you have to keep going.
Do you have any questions?
I have one question, like, is for international students, is the same type of rules and it's the same way to get into the industry, or people will prefer Canadian instead, for example, international students to work with?
Are you from the Netherlands?
I'm from Ukraine.
Oh, from Ukraine. Ah, you look Dutch there for a second. I thought you had a Dutch accent. No, I mean, not for me. Particularly for, I think the different perspective is amazing. I would imagine it's the same thing, and that everybody just wants to have, I mean, the more diverse the stories that we tell and from different perspectives, I can only imagine that makes any work better.
Absolutely. We have interns every single year into our production company, right? We pay our interns because that's what you should do. And when we have people from other countries, I think it's amazing, because it kind of broadens everybody's base, and you learn different things, and you might get a perspective from someone that says, well, where I'm from, we do it this way, and you go, that's a really good way, we should do that here, right? Or something along that line. Yeah. So again, you just get out on as many sets as you possibly can and shadow someone in the exact field that you want to do, whether it's cinematography or writing or whatever.
And I think there's something really magical about this business of being able to just sort of be open to the opportunities too. Like, I never thought that I would want to write. That was just something that sort of naturally came. And I think that as a filmmaker, there's lots of different places to tell our story and have our voices be heard. And so being able to be open to changing and moving with that, and doing something on your buddy's film that's maybe not exactly what you want to do, but that's going to broaden your perspective. I think just working, seeing films, just constantly doing stuff is the best way. And I say that as if, we know all the answers. We don't, because even at our ripe old age, we are still doing the same thing. We're still back in the same spot, pitching stuff and auditioning and doing that. Like, that part never ends. So I think you got to, at a certain point, find a love for that part of it, and then that's what sees you through.
You have to love to tell stories and not be here to be because of celebrity or along that line, right? And regardless of the size of the budget, I want to be involved with something because I have a passion for it, and I want to do it way more than the paycheck that I would receive from it, right?
The paycheck is nice.
The paycheck would be amazing if we could get Game of Thrones type budgets. Awesome.
But the great thing now is that you can shoot on anything. Like,
Yeah.
it is so. I mean, I know we all want to make a big, huge feature, or we want our work to be seen. Like for sure, that was part of Lake Shorts too, was creating a venue where these really great films that often just go off into the ether, that there's a spot for them to be seen. But now, I mean, you can make your own stuff and actually get it out there on the internet. Like, that wasn't the case 20 years ago, right? You were really at the mercy of other people. So I think specifically for young filmmakers, I say that to my sons. They're like, we want to be YouTubers. And I'm like, well, okay, so shoot something then. Come up with a concept. Come up with something that's there. You can do it. You can do it on your phone, right? Like, yeah, they're young, but
Have they made their YouTube channel? Have they produced YouTube videos?
they want to. Well, we've got one that we're sort of thinking, okay, maybe we'll start this summer.
They have
to
their
keep
first
them
video
under
done, and yet we're as parents we're trying to decide whether it should go out or not.
There's 3 boys looking for summer stunts, so there you go.
You guys have been in the industry a long time. Something that we hear in the grapevine often is the problems with the Canadian film industry. It's very vague, though. It's never specific. So I'm wondering. I don't know if it has something to do with because we're not Hollywood, because our movie, the quality of our films aren't as good. Is there something that you see lacking in the industry? Is there something that you hope will change? Do you want it to get to Game of Thrones budgets types? Or do you think everything's fine just the way it is?
Well, it's never fine, but I think if you went into any country, they would say that theirs isn't fine. I worked in LA for a while, and there was problems there too. I think on the good side of the Canadian system, you can, if you have a good idea, you can get your stuff seen. You can get it out there. It's a smaller pool. I think our movies are great, actually. I think we've got incredible talent in this country, and creators, and writers, and directors, and producers. Like, there is some really, really good stuff happening in Canada in a way that didn't before. I think that the challenge that we have as Canadians is that we don't value our own work enough. So we don't value our actors and directors and producers. And I think part of it is maybe, who knows? I mean, I've had this conversation many times, whether that's part of the Canadian humility, which is what makes us lovely and friendly and kind and all of that stuff too, maybe, or maybe we don't have the confidence because we've spent, a century beside, sleeping with the elephant, as the older Trudeau said at one point. But, we are competing with the United States, so that makes it very hard. But I think that when we turn on the television, we have to make a conscious effort to choose to watch Canadian things, to support our colleagues and say, I'm going to choose tonight to watch their show instead of to watch The Bachelorette or to watch, whatever the other stuff is. There's crap that comes out in every other country too, and there's really great things. And there's crap that comes out here, and there's really amazing things. But it's on a grassroots, I believe, that we have to support our own talent, and then we get better and better. That's what I think. That's just my
We are seeing a lot, whether it's because of our tax credits or whether it's because we are seeing a lot of Canadian shows, like a lot of shows that are shot here, that are almost, that are also on U.S. broadcasters. Michelle's been on 2 or 3 of them, and there is kind of a back and forth thing. Our crews are second to none. Like, I think the Toronto industry is phenomenal as far as crews, as far as post-production, cameras, anything. We're just as good as LA in all of that aspect, and that's why we're always packed. And
that's not saying that anybody should watch something that's crap, but I think that we would be surprised if we tune in and actually tune in. Like, it's amazing to me how much we don't actually know who's who. It's a joke with a Canadian actor where, you get hired as the sort of, or hired or asked to come to something as a celebrity. And I've had this numerous times so I'm sort of the celebrity that's going to help, and I'm there with the other celebrity, and I'm like, I don't know who you are. Do you know who I am? And neither of us have any idea who the other is, because that's not the industry here. Now, if you go into Quebec,
they have an amazing star structure.
They really, because I think part of it is that in order to get French language television and movies, they're not competing with the States in the same way, and so they're really, really celebrating their own in a way that really builds their industry. And there's some incredible stuff that comes out of there.
Do you notice a difference in quality between any of the Canadian films and the Quebec films? Obviously, Quebec is Canadian.
You know what? I think that it's just the way that people embrace them. I mean, there's great stuff across the board. I mean, if you're comparing apples to apples, it's the same, right? I just think that it's embraced in a better way, and it's celebrated more so than it is here.
And again, it's back to the community, right? It's a French community. We're supporting French films. It's in our first language, and away we go. Right?
What are our stories? What do we want to tell? What am I willing to like?
Champion.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have anything you'd like to promote?
Well, Lake Shorts is turning 10 this year. It's going to, we are approaching, at this point, we're approaching the Toronto Arts Council on the sponsorship side with a big package on why we should be funded, and our plan is to expand Lake Shorts just for this 1 year, potentially have the best of series, like a Thursday night screening of all the winners from the last 10 years.
You can approach them as a sponsor versus a grant?
Well,
No, they would be.
it would be a grant.
Yeah.
So we would apply for a grant through the Toronto Film Council, and it would be, this is what we're planning on doing with your money. This is how it will support the arts. Who's going to get your money, and why it will be awesome for you to support us. Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Your son's YouTube channel?
No.
We can't pitch it yet, but we'll come to you, all right? And maybe you can give us some advice, because you're closer to it than I am. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
Awesome.
you.
No, thank you.
My
Cheers.
only regret is that we didn't end on you saying that I'm handsome and charismatic. That was the perfect,
And then you
the
can end
perfect
on that.
ending.
I cannot believe how handsome and charismatic you are. How much money do you need?
That's the only, else of what they have said are lies. That's the only one that's actually true. Let's go.